ladies and gentlemen, we are back for another Goose Chasing podcast number 24. Kind of crazy. We've been lingering around that long.
Holy
Not
shit.
not long for some people, but I don't know. We've only missed a week in that 24 episode run, so that's pretty solid. And we're gaining on the season, so it'll be even a tougher task to keep it going. But I don't know. It's been fun to relay some old stories, kind of relay some feelings, just reconnect on here as much as we can. And the feedback and the people that are listening in each week, we can't thank y'all enough because y'all are the ones that really make this happen. So it's been a fun little journey.
Episode 24, Kobe Bryant.
R.I.P. the Mamba. R.I.P. Mamba mentality. It's something that I'm lacking this morning because I'm a little foggy.
It's the hangover from the 4 days straight of pretty much dusk to dawn working.
Trimming bush.
Trimming bush, hanging stand, and turning
Planting.
dirt and walking fast and cranking hard.
Hashtag walk fast, crank hard. Yeah, it is. And then literally got in the car yesterday at like 5 Eastern, drove all the way back to Nashville, didn't get back here till like 1 a.m.
Good
I'm
golly.
like, I'm a zombie right now. But it was good. Good. I mean, great to be up at camp. Obviously, it's the second home. It's the oasis. It's the escape. We're very fortunate to have that, to have that place. Are you getting my audio?
Yeah.
Okay. Very fortunate to, have a place like that. I mean, literally, the cool part about camp is like for us, it's 200 acres, or it's a little bit over 200 acres now, but it literally started as a 40-acre chunk that we literally started hunting on. Like that's where we learned hunting, learned what it was, learned what it was about, learned the disciplines, learn the sacrifices, all that stuff. So to be able to build on that and, to put it in perspective of what it is now is kind of crazy.
Very, very much so. Added on little chunks at a time, and gosh damn it, it's a lifestyle now.
Well, and now, I mean, I think a lot of people would say, "Oh, you're so lucky to have that," and we are, but it's this. None of this came like overnight. It just didn't like pop out and all of a sudden that was there. It was a lot of time and effort, and I mean, the only reason that we've kept building on it and acquiring more land and putting in more food plots and creating more better spots and all that stuff is because we're so damn passionate about the sport of hunting.
It was this has been a slow growth over time. I mean,
yeah.
I don't even know how 15 years ago we'd pull up on the side of the road next to the property because that's all we did. We would pull up, you'd get dressed in your truck or outside if the weather was conducive. Everything was done, like the truck was the home base on the side of the road. That was the home.
It. Yep.
That was the home base. And when we were doing this kind of work in the summertime, we'd pull up. All we would have is the trailer. We'd have a trailer with a four-wheeler on it and a 40-inch king cutter, Swisher king cutter, brush cutter on the back. That's all we had. And then
a couple hand saws maybe, and
a couple hand saws, a pull saw, maybe a shovel and a rake. And anything else we could steal out of
Grandpa's shed.
Grandpa's shed.
And if we were lucky, we had a new tree stand in tow that we were putting up.
Yeah.
But that was it. It was parking on the side of the road, pack a lunch, go in, get some work done, come out, have some lunch, whatever. And it was just with the equipment that we had, we did the best we could. And as you start opening up, different areas, or, you brush hog a little field, you put up a new stand, all of a sudden, like, the vision kind of starts to expand a little bit. And you're like, oh man, like, this is cool this year, but next year we could do this. Or, you keep kind of rolling out new ideas and new ideas. And then it's like, then the ideas get bigger. It's like, well, man, if we had this little chunk of ground right next to us, like, we could do this. And it just, I don't know. It just slowly, like you said, it's been a slow burn and transpired over time. But now where we're at and the setup that we have, you could probably just close everything off now and just say we're good. Like, we don't really need to do anything else to hunt successfully and, plentifully for the rest of our lives on that property.
No.
Other than, continuing to do the yearly work, like put in food plots and stuff like that. But, like, we're good. I mean, we obviously want to improve. There's a ton of stuff that we still want to improve. But if we didn't improve anything else, we'd be totally fine.
It'd be fine.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's been a crazy journey.
But we won't slow down.
Hell no.
The root of it is the drive for just to, like, not for at least for me, not for perfection, but just get better and see more results. It's like the more you do, the more you want to learn. The more you do, the more you want to do. If that even makes sense.
No, I mean, it makes perfect sense.
We're doing all this stuff with food plots now. Well, now I want to, and I have been, but we want to get into, the timber management side of things, the parts of the property that you not necessarily overlook, but you don't do things to from a management standpoint. You might go throw up a stand in these areas, cut some shooting lanes, but you really don't do anything to it, from in the off season. That's what we want to start getting into now. It's crazy.
Well, it's learning that if it doesn't have to be a food plot to improve your land.
No.
And, like you said, learning all the different pieces of it, the timber stand being one of it. Obviously, we've hinge cut and stuff like that before, but creating bedding as a whole, like in general, that's a whole nother part of it. And that's very, very overlooked, I feel like, because
huge.
During the hunting season, you figure like a majority of the hunting season is when the leaves have fallen off, there's no foliage on the trees, and when that happens, obviously the actual safety cover dwindles quite a bit for the deer, the turkey, everything, for all animals. And having some of that, like having some dense cover or places on your property that the deer can go and feel safe is extremely important as well. If you want to, like, physically hold the deer or, numbers of deer on your property. So, like, outside of the food plot stuff, I think that's like what I'm even the most intrigued about, is creating those areas or adding to those areas so that all of a sudden, you're not just seeing like good results throughout the beginning of the season, middle of the season, but hey, when you, like, if it comes down to, okay, you only got one food plot on your property or one or two food plots and you run out of food, like, can you still hold deer? Is there still a reason for deer or whatever species you're hunting to still be and live on that property at that time of year?
Yeah, for sure. We've noticed that in years past when the biggest thing with New York is we always talk about, we get these huge snows, and that really kills the cover.
Oh yeah.
All your brush, goldenrod, anything that's not super strong, and it creates a lot of cover in the summer, early fall. It gets, when you get 18 to 20 inches of a wet snow, it gets pancaked to the ground.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. We'll get a big snow in November, and stuff will thaw out for a week or two. You get a decent amount of weather, and then it's all thaw, and you look at the property, and you're like, it is that, like, everything is
So
just
different. Yeah.
matted to the ground. So it's times like that where the deer make a big shift, and if you only have food and you don't have the right cover, you'll still get deer coming onto the property, but a lot of it's going to be probably, coming from a distance and nighttime stuff. But it makes it a lot harder to hunt. Yeah, like you said, you have to have good cover, especially there. Like, you get other areas, Ohio, parts of the Midwest, where we don't get big snow, and a lot of the cover, right, leaves fall for sure, but a lot of cover stays standing. So it doesn't have as drastic as a change as when you get pummeled with snow and everything just gets
Yeah,
matted
I
to the
mean
ground.
but even in other places, like once the foliage comes down, I mean, I use this new lease down in Tennessee for example, like it's all cover. Like I can hunt the outer edges of it. We can hunt the outer edges of it. There's some oak trees on the outer edges of it, but it's all cover. Like it's thick, gnarly shit. And the thing that intrigued me about it is I'm starting to look at OnX, on the map, and I'm starting to look at the surrounding farms. Excuse me. There's fields around it that are corn, that are beans. I'm like, okay, there's already food. There's going to be food with the oak trees dropping acorns and stuff in the fall. But when push comes to shove in late November and December, when you still have a month and a half of the season anywhere, like this is going to be where these deer want to come because the surrounding areas, it does not show a ton of dense cover. And this is like 20 acres of thick, gnarly shit. Like the deer are going to want to be here. So, I mean, I'm already getting, we're already getting some pretty solid pictures of bucks and, a couple different bachelor groups and stuff like that right now. But I know once the leaves fall off and it starts getting cold, like I just have a really good gut feeling that this place is going to blow up for deer movement because it's going to sanction a lot based on the cover that it provides.
100%. 100%. You got to have all three. You got to have food. You got to have water,
And you got to have cover.
shelter, and then they call it refuge. And then you got to have does in the rut.
I've got
So
does.
there's four things.
I've got does.
Four
in
things.
different area codes. Area codes. Yeah, but we worked our keisters off this past 3 or 4 days. I think the property's set up better than it ever has been. We got 3 or 4 new XOPs. We got all of our stands set. Restrapped, all lifelines and everything, which I'm a huge fan and advocate of now. I don't really even care what the stand looks like. It could be 16 feet off the ground, but when you're transferring from platform to ladder or vice versa, you just in the dark, in the rain, it doesn't matter. Like it, I don't know. I'm that to me was like the most comforting addition that we've made, honestly, to all the tree stand setups at least this year is knowing that we're gonna walk in, you're gonna be able to hook up from the ground, climb up, and stay hooked to the tree until you return to the ground after thy hunt. Yeah, I'm into that shit.
Yeah, it's definitely you got to be safe. Better safe than sorry.
It's no doubt about it. We take a lot of time away from the people that we love to do this thing that we love.
Got to come home
And
safely.
got to come home safe and in one piece. But I mean, the food plot and just kind of the farming aspect of things that you've really taken on under your wing is beyond impressive. I mean, it's beyond impressive. It's beyond comprehension. It's if you took any other whitetail biologist, whitetail guru, Grant Woods, Mark Drury, Lee Lakowski, bring them up to New York and show them the setup of that property, and they're going to be like, "Holy shit, this is pretty badass.
This is awesome.
We could kill some shit here." They would. I mean, that's not like I'm not even fucking around right now. Like if you bring the best of them up there to Western New York, where you're not supposed to kill big deer, and it's consistently one of the top 5 worst, quote unquote, worst states to hunt in for big deer since we've been alive. Like, you take them up there and put them on that property. And we always used to say this. We always used to say this growing up. Take them guys off TV and bring them up here into New York, into the big hardwoods, and let's see how many 150-inch deer that they get or that they pass, right off the rip.
Right.
They won't do it. But now, if you brought them up there, they'd be like, shit, we could fuck with this.
We could do it.
We could do something here. That's for damn sure. I mean, every single, sorry, I'm on a rant right now, but every single plot has a amazing ground blind setup or an elevated blind setup to get out of the weather, or just for an observation. Really not even observation, because they're all in good bow spots. Every one of them has a undercover, out of the weather, out of the elements spot, and every food plot has also a tree stand, where you can get into the elements and out into the fresh air and still have a solid ambush on that specific plot as well. And then we have all of our hardwood sets, that's what a lot of what we were working on this past week is, improving some of our hardwood sets so that when push comes to shove in early November and really throughout the whole month of November, when the deer are running, you get back into the hardwoods and you can pack a couple sangies and sit comfortably in an XOP all day long and, improve your chances on killing something.
Yep.
It's badass. It's badass.
Yeah, the property is definitely set up the best it's ever been. And then the food, from the food standpoint, the cool thing is it's always been good, but we strategically plant things to supplement something else that we plant, and or use it for other, we plant corn a lot to use as not only food, but for cover and screening for access. And every year it seems like something we plant or something we do fails. A lot of it'll be good, but if it's the beans fail one year, the corn fails, our sorghum, our whatever, something, we get too much rain when the turnips are planted and then they just yellow out and don't like that stuff. Something always fails. And it seems like this year so far, everything is on track. Everything is good. So knock on wood. Hopefully it all stays going, but everything looks really, really good right now. Everything's grown with a purpose. And I think it's just set up to have one of our best years ever. We might not be getting the best deer on camera right now, but just from a hunting standpoint and enjoying your property, enjoying the work you put in, it should be a fun season up there.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a fun season. And I mean, you realize that all of this, all the work that, and especially the food that goes in, it's all an investment too. Like, obviously you put it in there for this year and you're trying to reap the benefits of this year, but all the deer that are getting nourished from all of this food, they're being able to supply their bodies with nutrients to get them through the harsh weather conditions. It's knocking some stress off of them because they don't have to search for food, essentially. They know where it is. They have things at their disposal. All that stuff just generates a bigger and better deer herd for future years too. So, what we've done already, we've seen that tenfold. And this year's going to be no different. Like you said, it's going to be a blast to enjoy the property and all the hard work that's gone into it and the new spots that we've created. But it's, I mean, whatever deer are there this year or not, it's it's a great investment for the overall deer herd and what we can expect in years to come, and that's pretty cool too.
It's badass. The funny thing is we have an abnormal amount of bucks on camera right now that have one good, like one side, and either one side barely even grows or just a jacked up side, and we're trying to figure out why this is the case. I mean, normally this is associated with a prior injury or something like that, but these bucks are not all injured. So
Right.
what is
It is weird. There's got to be 5 to 6 of them at least.
on camera? And then, over the last week or two, we've driven around, or I've driven around, just kind of taking a cruise the last half hour of the day just to kind of see what bucks are around, just to, I don't know, just to see some deer out in fields and stuff. And I've seen numerous bucks off, not even close to our property, that have been the same. One side good, the other side just a unicorn spike, or barely anything growing on the other side. It just seems really weird to me. I know deer can mess up their racks when they bump them early in velvet. That sort of thing is common, but this just seems weird. Like, normally you see one or two of those deer running around in the summertime. That there's a lot of them.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot, and it's not like you said. These aren't injuries, like, and a lot of them. There's a lot of them. Like, there's a couple that have like big, long spikes or whatever. That you even one that like I would consider shooting. He's a big, mature deer, but there's other ones that are like literally like two little like boink, like
Nothing
tiny,
growing.
like it's like almost nothing growing, which is that's even weirder to me because it's like I don't know.
And these
One of them, every year you normally get, one or two of those every year that you're like, oh, look at that, But this is kind of excessive.
It's excessive, and we're getting, like, we have the Moultries on video mode. Like, we're watching these deer. They're not limping. They're
Right?
not like
They all look healthy.
they don't have scarred. Like, they're not. Again, I know prior injuries can still affect that. It's really strange to me why so many bucks are like that. I don't know necessarily why, because it's just, from what we've observed, it's just that area. It's not like we haven't seen any bucks like this in Ohio or anything.
Right. Not down here in
I don't
Tennessee
know
either.
what would cause that, if it's just a complete coincidence this year, or what, but
Be a
it's
pretty
strange.
be a pretty strong coincidence if that was a coincidence, honestly.
Yeah.
But
It,
then there's another handful of like solid 3-year-old bucks that are beautiful 5x5 or four by
oh yeah.
six or four, whatever. That are perfect symmetrical. I don't know.
Yeah. It could be, honestly, I've been thinking about it. It could be a great thing because, some guys will
Not
pass up.
shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some guys will have um, just, they'll want to pass up those type of deer, even if they're mature. But we've seen a lot of 2 or 3 year old bucks that are like that, and maybe they'll
Yeah.
get passed, and then next year they'll grow a full healthy
Right.
rack, and it kind of allows them to skate by for a year. So I don't necessarily mind it. I just don't know
What's doing
what's
it?
causing it, and hopefully it's not like a permanent thing.
Well, the other thing too is
What was I
hold,
gonna say?
hold on. My I need to change my card's about to run out. It's funny. I think a lot of people would view those type of deer as like quote unquote cull bucks. Um, that that their genetics are bad and they need to get out of the gene pool or whatever. All that bullshit. But it's not true. Like, that's just not true. There might be some instances where it is if it's consistent year to year, but a lot of times it's not. Like, I think if a lot of these bucks do make it, all of a sudden next year we'll see like perfect symmetrical racks again on a lot of these deer. And we may not even know who they are just based on because they only had one side the year before and it was kind
Probably
of tough
won't.
to tell.
Yeah, we
But
probably won't.
but I don't really believe in call bucks, to be honest. I don't believe that.
I mean, no, I don't either. You don't know what, especially
Not a
at a
young
young, no,
yeah.
especially at a young age. Don't get me wrong. We've had bucks. We've had like 4 points and stuff that we've watched for 4 or 5 years that are just like they get bigger, like they're studs, but they have nothing for inches. So
I mean, you could have argued that like Dwight was a cull buck, but he's like a 140-inch 6 point.
yeah, I don't
Like you could argue that, but that's not a cull buck. Like he
I don't believe
just
that either. I mean, we had a buck that we called Gnarls. This was 10 years ago, and this deer at a as actually missed him as a 3-year-old. Shot him. Shot a. I
oh
just
my god, dude.
busted a branch in half with a muzzleloader.
That was when we were in our prime of fucking shit up.
Yeah,
And it was
that
like,
was I was on a 3 or 4 year streak of just
dude,
not good
do you remember that? We watched that deer come through the hardwoods from
in the
so far away
in the snow, and
with
we just
like
waited.
with like three other bucks. And we just waited and waited and waited, filming the whole time. This thing comes in, gets to like 50 yards. It's muzzleloader. It was muzzleloader season in Ohio, wasn't it?
Perfect, yeah, perfect
Dude,
broadside shot,
50 yards, perfect broadside.
scope.
Boom. And I'm like, this deer, when he got to the place that it is, I'm like, finally, we're going to break the curse.
He's done.
We're breaking the
He's
curse.
done, and he was not.
He was not. Dean
No,
shot, and that thing ran like 100 yards through the woods, and he stopped. And he just stood there for a second, and then he just like bounded away after
yeah, he
that.
kept running.
And we're like,
What the
and
hell
we
happened?
got down. I'm like, dude, how did you miss that deer?
We got down, looked at his track. There wasn't a lick of hair, blood, and we followed it all the way till we couldn't see him anymore. It was like I don't know what happened. Well, we know now what happened. So I don't have much for excuses, but we watched this deer coming from so far away. I had the power on the scope up far. Like I don't even know if it was on 9, but it was up far.
Yeah.
And we were just so amped. We were young, and I'm like, he's coming, and you're just so
It was made to order. The
jacked
deer was
up. Not
done.
only that, but you have a gun, so you're like, holy shit, this is really gonna happen for sure. And yeah, he got into that lane, and I saw nothing but shoulder. Like I literally saw nothing but shoulder in my scope, and I just squeezed. And we went back and looked. We were trying to figure out what the hell happened. We went back and looked at the video, and you just see like it was like a tree grown. I don't even know, tree grown or a branch, couple inches thick maybe, and literally right across his body that I don't know if I was so in the zone when he was coming in, I didn't even see it, or my scope was on that high power. So that thing, it was almost going through that branch, if that makes sense. Like it wasn't in focus, you know, how
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
happens. But I obviously didn't see a branch in my scope, but
She
we
canned that
watched the
thing.
footage, and that thing just busted right in half and fell. It was like halfway between us and the deer, just cracked and fell, and we were like, "Oh my god, I just blasted that tree."
Made to order. Like, literally, we saw this deer coming in. I'm like, holy shit, it's done. The curse is over. Thank God. We're going home with one. No, you're not.
No, you're not. But going back to it, the funny thing was he was, nothing huge, but he was a nice 8 point at that year. Nice tall 8 point. Really kind of unique buck. But the next year, he was a 4-year-old, and this deer was a 6 point who got smaller, and he had no injury. I did not hit him. But
Yeah.
he had
No,
no,
it's not.
he had no injury, and this deer had such a distinct forehead that you could. He did. I remember that, like friggin' crazy. Like it was like that squared forehead.
Yeah,
But
he
you
had
could,
that Roman nose,
yeah,
almost like he broke his nose.
yeah, you could tell what deer it was. And actually, we watched the 6 point for a couple weeks before we realized we're like,
That's
that's
fucking gnarls.
that's because we were waiting for that deer to show up. We knew he was alive. We had him all the way through shed season
Yeah,
after I missed him, and we finally realized in this early fall, I think, that this was that deer, and we're like,
because he had
why?
a giant body.
Huge
He
body.
was a 4-year-old. He had a giant body, and then we proved it because the next year he blew. He was right back into the same
He
frame.
the next year he was a giant 8.
Yeah.
I mean, he was big,
Well,
heavy.
I mean, he was a
5-year-old
big,
was
yeah.
huge. He was big.
And at 6, he was a real giant 8.
Yeah, the next 2 years. But my point, yeah, is a deer that's that size at 4 years old, you're thinking this is a call buck, like he's never going to be anything, and that was completely false.
Well, and
Deer,
if you didn't know him from the year before, you would have been like, yeah, it's a wash,
this
you
is a
know?
mature buck, and he's got a small 6 point rack. He's done. Let's call him out. But yeah, I mean, I believe that at 2 and 3 years old, you can predict which deer are likely going to be like giants, lots of points, but you don't know until that deer is 5 and 6 years old. You just don't know.
Dude,
You don't know.
even at even after that, I mean, it just doesn't matter. I mean, not that it doesn't matter, but like that same deer, Gnarls, at 5.5, beautiful 8 point. We had a couple encounters with him. I remember the one, like, second day of the season, walked right under us. But
Yeah.
it was just he was too late. It was too dark.
Yeah, it was too dark.
And he ended up getting shot by a couple or an Amish dude on the neighboring property with a crossbow right on top of the shoulders. Lost his rack by Christmas, was limping like crazy, looked like he was going to die by February.
Oh, he looked so terrible. We were like, if we see this deer, do we put him out of his misery? Like he had this huge, like, I mean, bigger than a softball size ball on his
Goiter.
shoulder. Like, I don't know, it was all infection or what, but
And then it was on his shoulder for a while, and then it dropped down to like below his neck.
Yeah, it was the weirdest,
like
craziest
it was like
thing.
fluid that just like started high and then it just like sagged down.
Yeah,
and
guaranteed. I would have guaranteed he was dead in the wintertime.
By February or March, he looked so bad, and we were feeding him. And we weren't just feeding them corn. We were feeding them like a supplemental feed that's supposed to boost their nutrition, immunity, all that
protein.
Stuff. And this deer grew his biggest frame the next year, perfectly symmetrical.
Huge buck.
8-point the next year. Literally couldn't be more like perfect symmetrical frame. Massive, heavy, freaking deer was enormous. Body size.
You could watch him. You almost could watch him through the springtime, like regrow his body and just become healthy again. It was the craziest thing we've ever seen.
Craziest thing. And we hunted that deer hard that year. He went MIA in like, I don't know, end of November or December. And one of our buddies picked him up on camera like 3 miles. 3 miles.
Funny, he was just calling me.
From
Peter.
3 miles from where we saw him.
I'll call you back, Peter.
3 miles from where he lived his first 5 years of his life. 5.5 years of his life.
Insane.
And then he literally stayed there. Peter, did he shoot at him? Did he miss him once?
I think he might have. I'm trying to remember.
He missed him as like a 7-year-old or something. He saw him again as an 8-year-old. And did he die at 8 or 9?
I think it was 8. It was 8 or 9 years old.
8 or 9 years old. Our buddy Peter found his dead head like after the season, and who knows how he died. But this deer was a freaking warrior. I mean, and think about that. At 3 years old, he could have been dead. A branch saved his life at 3 years old.
Yeah, I know.
God,
And he lived for another 6 years after
God,
that.
yeah, God only knows what happened when he was 4 as a 6 point. We saw him a couple times. We just didn't shoot him. Those bigger deer on the property.
Yeah.
As a 5-year-old, he sneaks by us a couple different times, gets blasted in the shoulder by a crossbow, lives through that, and then lives another 4 years.
His pickup and move was the craziest thing ever because his entire life, well, for 6 years, he lived in that area we were hunting.
Well, and
We saw him every year. He was there.
if
Every summer he was there. It wasn't like he was a deer that lived somewhere else and moved in October. He
right,
lived there. He lived in that area for 6 straight years. And then we saw, I remember, I think it was like mid-November when he was 6 or 7. You saw him? Or no, or we got him on trail camera or something. And then all of a sudden he disappeared.
gone. If we wouldn't have known, we would have thought he would have died that year.
Oh, and if it wasn't for our buddy Peter, we'll send trail cameras back and forth, and we whatever, just shooting the shit and sharing deer photos. But after he sent that photo, which was like a week and a half or 2 weeks after the deer disappeared from us, and we were like, "Wait a second,
No, dude, it took us like a month.
Well,
And
it took us a month to figure it out.
Yeah.
But his pictures were like a week and a half
Yeah.
later than when he disappeared from us.
Like
But
he's
yeah,
just like, I'm
we didn't figure this out until towards the end of hunting season or whatever.
right. Well, yeah, he literally just picked up and moved. He was like, I taking the wife and kids, got a
I'm
good
out.
job, got a good job somewhere else, and I'm going.
And I would love to know what caused that, because something did.
And it's not like he just moved a couple properties over.
He
It
didn't
was
move to the next block.
as the crow flies, it's
It was
3 miles.
Yeah, more, almost 3.5 or 4, I think. And so
like the major roads that he's got to cross to get there, it's not like this isn't like massive farm country where, he's just going, he's only passing through
fence row and
3 farms. Yeah, he's only passing through 3 or 4 farms to get there. I mean, the hunters that he had to have gotten through to just get to that point. And then the crazy part is too, he got there and he was just like, this is it. I'm going to stay here for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Like, what?
That's what he did.
And that's what he did. Like, wild.
Yeah, because a lot of times when they do that, they'll be in a weird area for like a week or 2 weeks, and then
or a doe takes him in or something. Yeah.
He found home in that area, and
he was like, I'm good.
That's where he was. And
What's
that's
up,
where
Pete?
He's like,
he's like, what's up, Peter? Send my picture to the boys over at TAGNBRAG. Tell them,
sorry about your luck.
Better luck on my son or my grandson or something, because I'm out.
He's got his
slinging crossbow bolts over there.
Yeah, he's got his deadhead though. It's pretty insane, the journey of that deer. But just going back to it, how these deer fluctuate from a year to year basis. You just don't know. You don't know what's going to blow up. You don't know what's going to blow down.
Exactly.
We've had deer in North Dakota that at 3 and 4 years old are just beautiful 5x5 deer, and we're like, this deer is going to be huge. And then the next year they're like the exact same, and then the next year they're like the exact same, and we're just like, what the hell? This deer's not getting any bigger.
It's Lou Bega.
It's crazy. Some deer, I mean, I relate it to, look at humans. Like, some people hit puberty early.
Yep.
And they're just kind of like 2 and 3 years old. You see their rack. That's kind of what they're going to be. And then others don't. You don't see it until they're 5 years old, and then maybe even 6. Like, they just continually get bigger and bigger and bigger. But it's part of the cool part about deer, honestly, is just following that whole.
Well, and that's the cool
process.
part about, that's the cool part about like the outdoor TV and outdoor like video production and stuff like that, because that's allowed us to see more of it. And obviously trail cameras. I mean, trail cameras now, you can follow deer year after year. And honestly, like, that's just a cool part of it and an intriguing part of it for us also is watching them year to year. And it's like,
Oh, it's my
you know,
favorite.
passing a deer, maybe you'll get shit for passing a deer, because of a certain size or somebody else would have shot him, whatever. Like, that's all your own personal judgment and stuff like that. But it is cool to pass a deer and say, hey, look, go watch this. You could see that we passed this deer, and then this is why. And I mean, case in point, Nipsey. Nipsey's the perfect example of that. Nipsey, anybody in their right mind, especially up in New York, would have unloaded the rifle, unloaded their quiver on that deer as a 3-year-old, no questions asked. No questions asked. You had them literally directly under your tree, and you literally watched them walk right on by. I could say I passed him a couple times. The one time was a little bit low light. The other time he was at like 40 yards and he was kind of on a dead walk, and I knew that I wasn't going to shoot him, so it was just I was filming him. Call those just encounters, passing them, whatever. But you legit had that deer at 4 yards from your tree and give you every opportunity as he was walking away, and you just said, see you next year. And that's the risk that you take. But like you said, as a 2 and 3-year-old, you could tell that deer he had the little points coming off of his bases. We call them
He already had those like veins that go like inside the
yeah.
rack. I love those things. Those like
Yeah. Well, we call them Nipsey because of all the little nips that he had.
yeah.
And Uncle Jeffrey wanted to call them nipples, I think, and we're like, we're not
We
naming a
can't.
deer nipples.
Yeah, that's not.
That's
It's
not
not
like
badass.
no. So it ended up being Nipsey, and I mean, shit, dude, the deer grew 40 plus inches in 1 year.
Yeah, that deer
But
exploded.
But the same, I mean, Don's another prime example of that. And he had that 10-point genetic, and you could just kind of tell he was, as a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, he was heavier, than the other deer that he was cruising around with. And I mean, I don't know if we were trying hard to shoot, but we were kind of trying to shoot him the year before. I know you were happy about the situation that, didn't happen when we were in the blind together, and he got by us or whatever. He was chasing the doe. But then, I mean, go figure. Like the next year, friggin' deer blows up 30 to 40 plus inches. He gained, and a drop tine and a droopy beam, and
My
three
goodness.
3 points coming off of the end of his one main beam and stuff. I mean, just insane.
You can't. So many people have the mentality, well, that deer's just going to get blasted. Number one, you don't know that.
Right.
And I'll tell you one thing is for sure, is if you shoot him, he sure as hell ain't getting bigger after that.
No, he ain't. He doesn't have much of a chance after
So it's
that.
it's hard to do. And, sometimes they will get shot. But if you want to hunt big deer, and to us, it's not even like at least for me, it's not about like, I want to hunt a big deer. I just like watching them from year to year. Like I like that more than pulling the trigger. It's badass seeing how they grow, learning about them. I just love watching them like that.
Well,
So to me, that's like, to me, both of us passed them up. Like he walked right underneath me. I'm like, I already accomplished. Like if you want that deer at 3.5 years old, it's on video. Like I already accomplished it. I'm letting them go.
yeah, you put yourself in the right position.
Yeah, I already did it. Like he's there. He could be on the wall. Or I mean, obviously you got to make the shot. It's not guaranteed, but I'm gonna watch him for another year because
Well,
that
and,
was
and
just badass regardless.
I mean, part of that too is the more work that you put into the land, the more work the more time and effort that you pour into giving back to the deer and all the animals, the more you want to watch that
Yeah,
process happen year
right.
after year.
You don't want to cut it short.
And I think that's where you get the guys that are saying, "Oh, well, if I don't shoot him, the neighbor will." Well, that guy didn't and it's
He didn't
fine.
spend all
Like
summer working on his
right.
property.
He didn't bust his ass knowing that he provided for the deer, the animals, whatever, and like he wants to see that process play
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, I
You know,
totally agree.
don't and if it's
If
a
that's how
buck,
you are,
that's fine, but
yeah,
don't
that's
make the
fine.
don't make the excuse, oh, the neighbor's gonna kill him, so
I have to.
I have to. No,
Yeah.
if you want to shoot him. Like tip, and I'll tip your hat to you. You made a good shot. You put yourself
Yeah.
in position. You got a deer that you want. God bless. But let's not we don't need to make excuses for ourselves. If you shoot a deer, you want to shoot a deer. God,
Own
it's
it.
not. Yeah, own it, and be proud of it. Because at the end of the day, you took a life. Be
Yeah.
proud of it. Honor
Yeah.
that life.
Yeah, and just do it because you wanted to do it because you wanted to do it, like you said, not because you think someone else will.
Right.
That's not the
Right.
reason why to do it.
That's not the reason to kill. That's for sure.
No.
That's not the reason to kill. And I think, the more you put into the land also, I just hunting in general, it's funny. Kane called me last night on my way back down to Nashville. I talked to him for like an hour, and it's funny listening to him and his, like, he listens to all of our podcasts, and he's obviously, we've got 10 years of experience hunting with him now, and kind of opened him up to a different world of bow hunting and stuff like that. And we were talking through, and it was funny. Now he bought a camera. He literally, from his graduation money, he invested a solid amount of money to buy a camera, a lens, and he's filming with his buddies now and stuff like that. It's actually really, really cool. But he like that like the filming has brought that like satisfaction to him where he doesn't necessarily need to have that kill, because now he's realizing him and his buddies are going back and watching some of the footage that they've shot, and they're laughing their asses off.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And like, dude, I had goosebumps last night on the phone because he was like, dude, it's not about like, I don't need to make the excuse to like kill something anymore. Now we have all these memories that, we can watch years from now, and no matter what, no matter if we got something or we caught something on that fishing trip or what, like we can go back and watch and just cutting up with the boys or whoever was in camp with us, and, making those memories. Like that was the focal point of our conversation. And for an 18-year-old to grasp that already, I'm like,
That's awesome.
It's awesome. And for me and for us to play a very small role, and I feel like bringing that to light for him that was like the ultimate for me, because it's like he's getting it now. Like he's getting why we do it,
Right.
And he's like we don't have to shoot something all the time, but if he literally, like, this is verbatim, like if people see what we're doing and the fun that we're having, like maybe they'll want to do it too. And I'm like, dude, that is why we started Tag and Brag. Like that is fucking why we did it. Exactly why we did it. And I'm like, it was almost an epiphany for me to be like, holy shit, what we're doing is working. You know, we're passing it on. That's what we're doing.
That's
That's
awesome.
what we're doing. And so yeah, that was pretty cool. And I think, it's a personal thing for everybody. Like, and that's where, the hunting industry, the hunting community, I should say, gets a little chippy at each other sometimes. And you shouldn't have done that, or you shouldn't have shot that buck, or you should have passed him, or
hunt my way.
What you should hunt my way. And that's not you. You should hunt your way. You should hunt for you. You should make the decisions that you feel is right, that obviously within the legal limits that you are going to be satisfied and happy with, and live and die by it, and enjoy what you're doing and the memories that you're making. And support the other people that are trying to do the same thing in their way, just tip your hat. Somebody shoots a 6-point, hell yeah. Got it with a bow, first buck, whatever, hell yeah. Like, It's it's the negative, portion of that, the backlash that gets a little tiring, but I don't know. Yeah, getting back to it, the Kane conversation was pretty funny, and it was cool because everything that we kind of just talked about, and you know just pouring it back into the land, and that reward is almost more rewarding than the picture that you take, that holding them at the end,
Hell yeah.
because that picture now for us is like 3 to 4 years of, or 5 years of, an investment into the land that deer lived on.
Yeah.
And
100%.
so and who knows what the encounters were prior to the actual successful hunt or whatever. But yeah, I don't know, I'm going off on a rant now, but
No, that's pretty cool. Pretty badass.
and the kids planting a food plot today.
Is he doing it today?
Yeah, they're doing it. He said they got a bunch of rain yesterday. It's been pretty dry for the last couple weeks. They were waiting on a rain to come in. And he wanted to get it in earlier so that
Yeah.
when, like, by the time the first week of the season starts, that it would be
Yeah, a little bit huntable.
huntable. But yeah, it's funny. I mean, it's cool. I don't know, that whole the whole North Dakota experience. I know we talk about it a lot, and maybe it gets old to some people, but just the way that that's transpired, and it's kind of not only for our personal, like, we've had a lot of success out there killing big deer, but the breed of a few new bow hunters, and even like all of his buddies and stuff, like, they all, it feels like they're all a part of this too, which is awesome, which is awesome. And to have a little bit of influence on that is definitely, don't take that lightly, for sure.
And now Kane's younger brother's coming up, and we might be breeding another one.
Oh, Carson.
Get him in the saddle.
Get Carson in the saddle. I can tell you one thing. Carson is not camera shy. That is for sure. Kane's
No,
not either. Kane's not either. He
No.
has a little bit of like a sneakier way about going about it. Carson, wide open.
Carson's like, it fuels him.
Wide open. Yeah, exactly.
Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't fuel him. Maybe that's just him. But
I think it is just him, but
yeah,
he doesn't shy away from being him when you stick a camera in his
yeah,
face. And
which is awesome.
And
that's such a rare thing because so many people shut down. It's natural. So many people are just like, they freak out.
Oh my gosh.
But they just completely go into a shell as soon as you hit record. And he's just like, let's go.
Yeah, the doors are wide open when you hit record for that
Game on. That's funny.
That is funny. Good stuff. Good stuff. What else is going on? I got to change a battery here quick. Yeah, I don't know now. What is it? Just kind of, I mean, there's some miscellaneous stuff to do at camp, obviously. I got some stuff to do down here on the new lease down here. But
yeah, a lot of the stuff anything else at camp is just some clean, like, brush hogging, raking trails, making like the fine tuning stuff that honestly we never even have time to get to, but really dialing things in. And I don't know, maybe just extra fertilizer on some food plots here and there. Just, keep an eye on everything and making sure if you see something that needs something,
attention.
if you need to see a plant that needs attention, then try to do what you can with it. And then it's going to be kind of coasting from here, which is great because normally I'm still scrambling until even after we get back from North Dakota. And then,
yeah, I mean, no, this is a good feeling to have when you get to a point where you just, like you said, you can kind of coast into the season now, and
everything's planted. All these stands are, for the most part, everything's the main stuff is all done. So
yeah, and we're subject to a good run and gun mission every now and again, but yeah, we have a handful new stands that we put up, and obviously some of the old faithfuls are still there and still kicking, and yeah, but I mean, shit, it's gonna be, what is it, the 7th. We are in 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, no, literally 3 weeks from today or tonight. Going to be setting sail to North Dakota. So kind of nuts. Kind of nuts.
Insane.
It's but man, am I ready? Wow, am I ready? I am ready for the chase. I don't know what it is. You'd think that things would get redundant, but I don't know. For us, we try and always open up new doors and new opportunities every year while fine-tuning all of what we have. And I think we've done that, this year, obviously dipping into Kansas later in the season. The North Dakota trip may be a little bit different this year, or maybe who knows if there's a couple of them in the works. Potentially going to be up in Wisconsin with the XOP crew for a little bit. Down here in Tennessee, kind of embarking on some new land. Even in Ohio, may have an opportunity to dip into some new land. And camp it feels like it's got a complete makeover renovation. So I don't know. Something just feels like new, fresh, good. The energy's high and just very motivating and inspiring. And I don't know. I'm ready. I'm just ready to roll.
Me too, brother.
Ready to roll, baby. Well, I got some editing to do. I know you got some shit to do, so we'll probably send it on our way here. But thank y'all once again and always for listening to this wonderful podcast of Goose Chasing.
It's been an enjoyable journey.
And the journey will continue.
The season's getting close. Like Dave just said, these things are going to be, it's going to get good here during the season.
Yeah, it's going to be cool to talk about, the
review
season
hunts.
Review hunts as it's gone on, the good, the bad, the ugly, what we're seeing, what we're doing. And all this stuff is kind of talked about so that we can all bounce ideas off of each other. So y'all drop us a line, send us a message, comment on this video on YouTube. Let us know what you're seeing, what you're doing to get ready for the season. Let us know what goose chase you are on right now as we prepare for our favorite time of year.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
Beautiful thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, send off this hump day in style.
God bless everyone.
A quick gyration. God bless.